Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, we haven't even talked to each other before firing up the old recording equipment because we wanted to get each other's initial thoughts on that PS5 reveal. Tell me what you're thinking.
I feel drunk. I feel delirious. I'm like genuinely so hyped. I mean, I enjoyed the Inside Xbox event that was a few weeks ago. But this, to me, had everything that I wanted to get out of this event. It hit all of like the beats. There was a real diversity in the portfolio in terms of genres and types of games that we're going to get. And I thought it was just like a nice, confident hour and a bit of PlayStation 5's coming. We know you've had a long time to wait. Here are the games that you're going to be playing across the first year or two. Here is the console. Bob's your uncle. Have a good time. And I thought, yes, I am having a good time. And I've got sweaty palms. And there were some surprises. And I'm just going to keep rambling at you for 10 minutes because I'm very excited. Good.
I'm if we had streamed that, I would have just been one big ball of heart palpitations for the whole thing. I was freaking out for the vast majority of it. Just everything from confirming the Demon's Souls remaster or remake to confirming Resident Evil 8 Village to just showing Horizon 2, it was now called Forbidden West, to showing the PS5 itself, and it looks like this crazy skyscraper you'd find in like Dubai or something. Just that's already dividing the office. Ash and Benroy, not a fan. Me and you, I think, are a fan. Osley think it looks like he thinks it looks like an old modem, but we're a big fan. But just so much stuff, I think, to address, like you said, that split of like first party and third party or second party stuff. Ratchet and Clank was confirmed as well. But comparing it to the Xbox showcase, where they sort of said, hey, by the way, this is going to be a third party. We're going to do all these sizzle reels of things that are coming to the Xbox, but on first party. This only proves that you do need those properties in-house. And they had so much confidence throughout this. Like, I was just looking at them going like, oh my God, you guys have arrived. Like, even though we've had PlayStation, we had PS2, the highest selling console ever. PS3 was such a dip. PS4 sort of saw them, get used to being like, hey, actually, we have this body of first party IP. And then this is just like, here's everything. We didn't see the new God of War, but they had everything else. It's just phenomenal.
It's funny that you mentioned Xbox, because I think one of the best things Xbox has done over the past few years is kind of unify its brand. Every single time E3 comes around, it's almost a joke where it's kind of like, this is an Xbox exclusive, this is a Windows exclusive, or a Microsoft exclusive. It's a real kind of focus on like, games that are coming to this machine and tying them to that. And I think with the Sony Worldwide Studios, having that logo at the start of every game, no matter how big or small, like get you excited about it, that kind of branding on it, even though it's a subtle change, it links it so much to the console that every time I saw that logo after the first few games were revealed, I got excited about whatever it was going to be, because like you said, that's going to be at least partly an exclusive game, and it's going to define what this machine is. But like straight away from, even though the start going into GTA 5 gave me a big laugh.
What was that?
I love that. It wasn't even PlayStation 5 footage. It was just GTA 5 and the PlayStation 4.
I almost broke watching that,
I could almost feel your worry coming through the screen when that was happening. But then they followed that up with bloody Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I had no idea was going to happen.
Which is coming this year, holiday this year.
And it's an actual game as well. Like, I thought it might have been DLC, and I'm not sure how long it's going to be or anything, but it feels like, it's a big thing. And we heard rumors either today or yesterday that Insomniac was going to have another game ready before Spider-Man 2 came out, but I had no idea that was going to be another Spider-Man game.
Well, I think that is referring to Ratchet and Clank, but either way, they're both new. But speaking of Ratchet, though, I was going to use that to pivot into talking about the SSD, because the whole thing with solid-state drives is that the PS5 can access all of the information on a disk at all times, regardless of, there's no more loading times. And I thought if they've literally built a game around that, so you've got this version of Ratchet and Clank where one of the main gimmicks is to sort of port between dimensions, like you're just hopping across a level, but you're porting into a completely different biome, like over and over and over again. And they kept showing the gameplay, and it reminded me of the effect and cause level from Titanfall 2, where I was like, how the hell have they rendered this? Because it just broke my mind. I was like, have you guys rendered sort of 6 or 7 different levels all on top of each other, all in the same place, and you're just moving between them? Like, that was my early game of show, because I was like, this is phenomenal, and literally you couldn't do it on the PS4 or anything else.
No, major agree. We talked earlier, I think, on a video this morning about Ratchet and Clank 2016, which we both really enjoyed. But that was very much, kind of based off an older game. Even though they did remix things, added new levels and stuff, it felt like a more classic platformer. Whereas this game felt like a kind of like step in a new direction. It felt like it was, delivering something new while still giving you that kind of great Ratchet and Clank vibe and atmosphere. I mean, it just looked gorgeous. And like you said, the things they were doing with like time and how the levels were constructed. I feel like time was a big kind of theme that was ringing throughout this. We had a bunch of games either messing around with how your perception of time works or, having days restart and stuff like that. And I thought that I'm always a big fan when anyone does that, and to see all of these different unique games kind of have their own riffs, and that made me very excited to go tell for it.
I think in terms of like a general showcase of technology as well, like did you come away from this going like, okay, I get what the PS5 can do? I mean, like some of the stuff that they showed, I think it was the new Square Enix game, I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but there was something that showed it was like a female protagonist jumping between different places, very fast moving game, and all the ground textures and the general environmental detail just looked phenomenal. It was kind of like that Unreal Engine. In fact, it might have been even using the new Luminous technology. Either way, like looking at that stuff, I was like, cool, I get this. I get what this next gen is going to look like, and I kind of you get a feel from that straight right out of the gate. Whereas I feel like only the first thing that was shown at the Xbox Series X conference had that sort of polish and sheen. But even then, it was a bit sort of manufactured. It was lots of like lens flare and particle effects and things to make you go like, oh god, it's next gen. Whereas opposed to this, it was like, well, if you squint or look closely, there is that level of detail, there is that depth to the rendering overall, which you want from the next generation. Like overall, I thought this was just the most confident that I've seen Sony in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that game, if my notes are correct, which admittedly I did write down in a major peak of excitement, was called Project Athia.
Oh, that was what that was.
Yeah, but I agree. I agree and disagree, right? Because I do think we had games like that, which sort of stood out from the pack and kind of gave you a taste of how next gen kind of like visuals and stuff are going to look in the same way that the Unreal Engine did as well. But I get the feeling that for the most part, this was kind of like focusing on the early days of PlayStation 5. We had a lot of games here that looked like the kind of launch titles that you get every single console generation. We had a lot of kid-friendly stuff. We had a lot of accessible stuff, which I'm a huge fan of. But, like Knack did, it doesn't fully, show what the console is capable of. But I think that's fine.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what was interesting was that when I saw Gran Turismo, I was like, tick the box for the driving game. You've got your driving game, cool. Waiting for a platformer, and it's like, well, we've got Ratchet and Clank, but also, you have that Sackboy game. It's called Sackboy's Big Adventure, and I was like, cool. They've handed it off to Sumo Digital. It's not going to be Media Molecule, and that idea of just ticking the platformer box, but giving it to Little Big Planet can just sort of like have a Sackboy adventure on the side, and that'll do as like some sort of launch-based platformer or some easy access platformer going forward. I like the idea of them sort of ticking the boxes in that way, but then the big games, the big budget stuff, the things that we're getting in 2021 and beyond are all these like new IPs and new ideas.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like it was just a great mix for me. Like you can say, where was Call of Duty or whatever like that, but the fact that we had Spider-Man, we had Horizon, we had Resident Evil, we had these big hitters in between like new IPs, and then in between that we had all of these really interesting indies. Like there was one game, I completely forgot what it was called. Goodbye Volcano High, I think it was called. That the cartoon one, like the
very Night in the Woods. That
yes, very Night in the Woods. The fact that I'm excited for that as much as I am Resident Evil 8 because they both came in the same conference. Like it just hit so many different markers for me personally that it's making me excited for games that I might have otherwise not paid attention to.
I think considering how much the indie label has changed this past generation, like you've seen something like the Unreal Engine went free to develop for, so all of a sudden you had this uptick in like indie development and rendering and visuals and stuff. Indie games now, or that sort of look of something that isn't, it's AA is almost like this sort of bracket you can slot things into. And like for me, like I said, my early game of show was Ratchet and Clank, but that very quickly sort of became Kena Bridge of Spirits, which was the one with the female protagonist. It was very like animated kind of Pixar style, lots of little like these little sort of black suit sprites that were helping you out. I thought that looked absolutely gorgeous. And there was another thing later on called Little Devils Inside that sort of had the Samurai Jack looking art style to the character, but then the environment was way more harsh, and there was some way more like sort of violence and stylistic features to it, but it was still cutesy and rounded. And I was just like, all this stuff is just this like visual feast. Like you guys have such a variety of genres on display from so many great devs at the same time.
I will second all of the recommendations you just said there and everything you just said, and also add Astrobot's playground thing. Dude, I absolutely went off when that came out.
Yeah.
Like the whole flat was up. You know what I mean? I was like England had just won the World Cup or something.
Man, considering the reputation that first game has, it's a shame to some degree that most people haven't played it because it is only on PSVR. Like I have a PSVR and I still haven't played it, but I know that all the comparisons, people compare that game to Mario 64, that it makes things work in a 3D space to such a revolutionary degree that it should be held up there with 64. And so that was one of the things though where I was looking at that character going like, even this guy is this known quantity, is this sort of known thing that you can hold up and be like, that's PlayStation. It just feels like, although they've obviously PlayStation's been around for like 23 years or whatever it is at this point, 26 or something, it feels like they have a whole new lease on life. Like I keep going back to the confidence thing, but considering how much of a letdown the SX thing was, to some people I enjoyed it enough, but this is how you debut a new console. It was perfect.
Yeah, 100%. It's made me excited to see more. Obviously, you know, if you've been watching any of these videos with me, and you'll know I'm very excited, and I'll no doubt be called a Sony fanboy yet again for enjoying this so much. But like you said, man, like they've held the cards close to their chest for such a long time, and to come out with this, even though it's only just an hour of content essentially, like I think it's going to get people excited. There's almost kind of like a mystique around the console because they've kept their cards so close to the chest, and like. It's funny, like we've gotten this entire video so far without even properly diving into some of the big hitters that are going to be causing headlines. You know what I mean? We barely touched on Resident Evil. We barely touched on Horizon, which I thought looked like Horizon especially. I thought
all the underwater stuff, just absolutely gorgeous. But I mean,
sorry.
No, I was going to say all those things. We're going to do so much coverage. I mean, Ewan was texting us in all capitals, just saying he was freaking out and weeing all over the place because he wants to talk about Spider-Man. And so, like, we're going to have so much follow-up stuff, but we just thought we would do an initial freak-out reaction because all these separate things deserve their own showcases. And even speaking to that, we're going to do an additional 20-minute breakdown of everything else coming very soon. It should be online tomorrow, I think. And we'll probably do something on the console as well. Is there anything else you would like to spotlight before we wrap this thing?
I don't know. Otherwise, other than just going through all of the games, like because it looked very good. I really thought Deathloop.
Oh, the new Bethesda thing.
You know, I wasn't convinced about that when we first saw it. That was, I think, announced last year, the new one from Arcane Studios. And I wasn't certain because I love Prey, but I'm not a huge fan of Dishonored. And I thought this erred on the side of Dishonored. But that, like, if we're talking about confidence, that was one of the most confident trailers I thought, like from the music to the performances to the dialogue to the way it looked. That swipe, like just brushing dudes off like the side with that kind of weird mind power. I thought that looked really, really good. And the Hideo Kojima looking one about like the space simulation, that looked sick as well.
Lost my absolute marbles at that. I thought that was going to be the next. I was like, well, it's kind of horror-ish. It's got some sort of like weird tendrils and stuff. It's not going to be Prototype 3. Maybe that's going to be the next thing from Kojima Productions. And no, it's just Mr. What was that dude called? The mascot? It's like Mr. Ludens man. Bring me the Horizon.
It's a Capcom
man.
game, so I don't know what I don't understand what's going on with that, but
it's called Pragmata or something, Pragmata. But the whole beginning of that, I was like, oh my god, this might be the horror thing that Kojima's been teasing. But anyway, we will do follow-up videos. For now, this has been me and Josh freaking the F out over the PS5. It's very good. But yeah, let's know what you think down in the comments below of the reveal. Did you like the look of the PlayStation 5 itself, and what sort of games are you looking forward to? Because for now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.